and T.I. was a rat.
Well, yeah. Man, everybody knows.
In the federal guidelines, where you can have 10 machine guns and get 1 year of community service and 1 year incarcerated.
I think he went up there and just got the talking.
One of the biggest no-nos in the hip-hop community is snitching. It's seen as a bigger offense than the crime itself. If you're labeled a snitch, no one will want to work with you, and you'll lose all the respect you once had. This is exactly what happened to Clifford Joseph Harris Jr., better known as T.I. Despite being a 3-time Grammy Award winner and a major player in hip-hop, especially in the southern scene during the 2000s, T.I. has always had this snitching accusation hanging over his head. A lot of his peers have called him out on it, and even though T.I. has denied it over and over, nobody seems to believe him. But why is that? Let's break it down.
People they had no access to, and they just imagine. And this way it work out in their mind. So I can't allow their fantasy to become my reality.
T.I. has had his fair share of run-ins with the law. We're talking about charges related to drugs, weapons, and even assault. But there's one particular incident that really made the snitch label stick to him. It all went down in 2007, right before he was supposed to perform at the BET Hip Hop Awards in Atlanta. Just hours before his performance, the FBI and a whole bunch of police officers swooped in and arrested him. They found that he had 12 machine guns on him, and 2 of them even had silencers. Now, if you're a previously convicted felon, getting caught with guns is a massive problem. And here was T.I., a felon with a dozen machine guns. Naturally, everyone was wondering how T.I. was going to get out of this mess without serving a ton of time. On October 26, 2007, T.I. walked out of the United States District Court in Atlanta after showing up before U.S. Magistrate Judge Alan J. Baverman. He posted a whopping $3 million bond, $2 million in cash plus equity on his property. The terms were strict. He had to stay at home except for medical appointments and court appearances. The only people allowed to live with him were his girlfriend and children, and any visitors needed court approval. T.I.'s suppression hearing was set for February 19, 2008. He eventually pled guilty to U.S. federal weapons charges and was sentenced to an indefinite prison term, a year of house arrest, and 1,500 hours of community service. In an interview with MTV about serving prison time, T.I. said, "Presumably while I'm there, I'll be able to strategize my comeback." He made it clear he wasn't planning on just sitting around doing nothing. On March 27, 2009, U.S. District Judge Charles A. Pannell Jr. sentenced him to 1 year and 1 day in prison and ordered him to pay $100,300 in fines. T.I. managed to get his sentence reduced from a potential maximum of 10 years and $250,000 fine through a plea bargain. Now, to a lot of people, this just didn't add up. Take Lil Wayne, for example. They found a firearm on him, just a pistol, in New York, and he got sentenced to a year in prison for that. Sure, New York laws are way stricter than Atlanta laws when it comes to firearms, but still, T.I. getting found with 12 machine guns and only getting a year? That's wild, especially for a convicted felon. Even if you have loads of money to get the best lawyers, it's still a stretch to think you could wiggle out of that kind of trouble so easily. This is why many people started saying he must have snitched on others to get a lighter sentence. A lot of his peers threw these accusations his way, including 50 Cent, which sparked a beef between them. It all kicked off when 50 Cent addressed T.I.'s alleged snitching on G-Unit's second album, TOS, Terminate on Sight. There's a track on there called You So Tough, where 50 took some jabs, but not directly. Now, 50 is known for calling people out by name without a second thought, but this time he kept it vague. He dropped lines that seemed to hit close to home for T.I., and naturally people made the connection. In the verse, 50 says, "What's today's mathematics? Ish ain't adding up. Get knocked with 10 machine guns, only get 12 months. Ooh-wee, don't talk to me, you talk to him, you talking to them. I got the best lawyers money can buy. They said they would have got me 10, or maybe 9. I said, how do you explain how homie breeze? They said, keep your mouth shut or you eatin' the cheese." After that verse dropped, everyone started speculating it was about T.I., expecting a beef to erupt. MTV even asked 50 about it, and he played it cool, saying he's direct when he goes at artists and that he was just asking a question. He basically left it up to the public to decide if they wanted to make it about T.I.
Issue, when have you known me to be indirect with an issue?
Oh, you're pretty direct.
Right, so if I had a problem with any artist, trust me, they would know.
Like, true. Yeah. Is that line about T.I.?
Absolutely for the public to decide.
T.I. later addressed the whole thing in his own interview, but kind of brushed it off. And honestly, it made sense. At that time, the police had T.I. under a microscope, watching his every move. Starting a beef with another rapper would have been the last thing he needed.
Conclusion. And when I heard him speaking on it, he said he wasn't talking about me, you know what I'm saying? And me and 50 always had a decent rapport, you know. It wasn't never nothing negative. So he's never had a problem with saying people's names when he's speaking on them. And like that's not like 50. If he going at somebody, he usually say their name and make it known. It's usually not ever whether or not.
That was pretty much the extent of their beef potential. Surprisingly, they actually went on to work together, jumping on tracks, and everything seemed cool. Fast forward to 2020, T.I. stirred things up again by calling out 50 Cent to a friendly 20-track battle on Instagram Live through the Versus platform. For those of you who don't know, Versus was created during the quarantine as a way for artists to go head-to-head and see who has the best tracks. It didn't matter if you were a producer or an artist, it was all about showcasing your catalog. So during 50 Cent's birthday week, T.I. decided to stir the pot by challenging 50 to a 20-track battle. T.I. wanted to see who had the better music and catalog. He even poked fun at 50, saying since Kanye West beat him in their sales battle back in the day, 50 might not take up the challenge.
For your birthday, I offer you a challenge, sir. Pull your ass up, man, with 20 of your records, man. You know what I'm saying? But I understand if you don't want to answer to that challenge, because last time you got challenged, Kanye West dusted your ass off. So, you might not want to do that. So, well, guess who ain't scared of your ass, 50?
At first, fans thought T.I. was just joking around, but things quickly escalated. After posting the initial video, T.I. doubled down by posting another video where he was on the phone with Kevin Hart, who shares the same birthday as 50.
Please tell 50 bring his on out here and get this smoke. Oh, Jesus. Please tell 50 Cent get his hit records and come on and sit down.
Naturally, what T.I. said made headlines, and 50 responded by posting one of the articles with the caption, "Yo, somebody passed T.I. the weed they gave Smokey and Friday, LOL." T.I. wasn't about to let that slide. He fired back with another Instagram video, saying 50 acknowledged his challenge but didn't want to accept it.
And he acknowledged that he received a message. He ain't said nothing about accepting that challenge though. All the comment talking about, oh man, 50 gon' do it. Man, I mean, y'all scared of that, not me. Tell me what 50 gon' goddamn do. Man, shut your scared up, get the out the way, and let me handle this.
The next morning, T.I. kept the momentum going with more videos, explaining how he tried to fly out to 50 Cent's birthday party to show some love and talk things over. However, one of T.I.'s homies called and told him it wasn't a good idea because Tony Yayo had a problem with T.I. This led to T.I. and his friend going live on Instagram to discuss the situation.
Man, where you was at last night?
In Brooklyn. In Brooklyn
doing what?
Doing 50 Cent party, had a great time. Told me on the way, you got the jet already gassed up. Said don't come.
Yeah.
I said don't come.
What you say?
I said don't come.
Say what?
Boy, when I tell you that boy Yayo, he either got a real problem some type of way, man. You ask me, he got some type of problem.
Tony Yayo didn't stay quiet either. He jumped into the comments, accusing T.I. of clout chasing. Then, things took a more personal turn. The next morning, 50 Cent took to Twitter and posted a video of T.I. on Crime Stoppers from back in 2008. In the video, T.I. is part of an Atlanta news broadcast encouraging people to report crimes, which is essentially snitching. The caption read, "Why do you make me do this? This the first song I'ma play, you so tough." T.I. saw this and was not happy. He reposted it on his Instagram with a lengthy caption, clearly annoyed by 50's move. "I'll take this as an acceptance of this catalog challenge," he says. "We got him. He bit the bait, set this ish up so I can finally shut this watermelon head, invisible neck end up once and for all. As far as this clip goes, it's cute, old, outdated, and in poor taste, much like your catalog 50 Cent. However, I prefer facts, and the fact remains, I have never given any information to any form of law enforcement at any time in life to get anybody any time for any crime. Supreme told me to ask 50 Cent if he can say the same? Well, that's all I have to say about that. So let's set this date and select your songs off that one hot album you got, and let's lay your little overrated, outdated, steroid-inflated catalog to rest. RIP to 50 Cent catalogs. I seen you bully all them NYN for years. Not die a king though. Despite the persistent snitching accusations, no concrete evidence has ever surfaced to prove T.I. actually snitched. In fact, T.I. has always been outspoken against snitches. He even kicked an artist off his Grand Hustle label after discovering the rapper was a DEA informant. Alfamega, who signed with T.I. in the mid-2000s, seemed to bring street cred with him. T.I. showcased him on the 2007 single Hurt with Busta Rhymes, but things fell apart by the end of the decade. In 2009, The Smoking Gun exposed Alfamega for working with law enforcement after he was sentenced to 110 months behind bars for federal gun charges in September 1995. T.I. wasted no time dropping Alfamega from Grand Hustle. He explained his decision in an interview on Atlanta radio station Hot 107.9, stating, "Even though all our artists and employees are asked by us to be honest and open about their past history, at no time did Alfa disclose to me or Grand Hustle what has now appeared in the media. He essentially deceived us by failing to fully disclose the truth about his past, and there is no place in our organization for dishonest and misleading behavior." T.I. added, "As I have always said, you must take responsibility for your own actions. We at Grand Hustle cannot support or condone the blaming of others for our own mistakes. I hope and pray to God, bless his savings plans, but I don't foresee me or my company playing a role in his personal or professional business." However, T.I. later shot himself in the foot by admitting he once snitched on his dead cousin to avoid jail time. In a resurfaced clip from an August 2020 episode of his Expeditiously podcast, the Atlanta rapper recalled pinning a gun case on his late relative Toot in the early 2000s, before his music career took off. T.I. explained that he and Toot were running a hustle in their native Atlanta, involving stolen upscale clothes when they were pulled over by cops who discovered a gun in T.I.'s possession. "We were at Lenox Mall parking lot unloading the truck of stolen clothes. I'm talking to the man while making the play," he remembered. This an asterisk looking at everything like, "Man, y'all got, Muthaf, we done said what you want. Get this ish and go." And right then, mall security pulled up. We got in the car and pulled off, and of course, they followed behind us and called the real police. So before we actually got on the expressway, the real police pulled us over. I had a gun. Toot, who introduced T.I. to DJ Tone, the producer behind hits like What You Know, 24S, and You Don't Know Me, was during the court case. At the urging of his lawyer and with Toot's posthumous blessing, T.I. avoided incarceration by claiming the gun belonged to his cousin. "We caught those gun cases, Toot died. My lawyer said, well, you know, I could make everything go away if it was Toot's, it was Tremels," T.I. recalled. After he had passed, I had a talk with him. Toot said, "I'll take all the charges you got. If you can walk away free and put it on me, God right, cause I'll be if they go and come and Muthafing extradite me from here."
If it was Tremels, and I had a talk with Toot.
And what Toot said?
Posthumously? Yeah. After he had passed. I had a talk with him.
And what Toot say?
If you could walk away free and put it on me, God right.
When gun rights activist Nikki Daniels Jr., a guest on the podcast, asked if that's where the allegations of T.I. being a snitch stem from, he replied, "Hell nah. Don't nobody know about that. I just volunteered this information. That's the only time I done ever said or gave information. Cause that's my big cousin. He was dead, and he told me that it was okay." Now, as we mentioned earlier, T.I. has had quite a few run-ins with the law. Harris first started dealing drugs as a teenager, and by the age of 14, he had already been arrested several times. In March 2004, a warrant was issued for T.I.'s arrest after he violated his probation from a 1997 drug conviction, as well as a 1998 conviction for violating a State-Controlled Substances Act and giving false information. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. While imprisoned in Cobb County, Georgia, he even filmed an unauthorized music video. By May 2004, he was released on probation, but after his release, he racked up a litany of probation violations in several counties around Georgia for offenses ranging from possession of a firearm to possession of marijuana. In 2006, after appearing in an Atlanta court on May 10th and having charges that he threatened a man outside a club the previous year dropped for lack of evidence, Harris was arrested on an outstanding probation violation warrant from Florida. The warrant claimed that Harris did not fulfill the required number of community service hours he was sentenced to complete for a 2003 battery of a female sheriff's deputy at University Mall in Tampa. Harris was detained by several mall security guards at the time of the incident. According to WSB-TV in Atlanta, T.I.'s attorney said that the problem was nothing more than a technical matter between Georgia and Florida. The confusion arose because T.I. was also sentenced to community service in Georgia for driving with a suspended license, for which he completed 75 hours of community service in his home state. He was released on bail shortly after being arrested and was expected to surrender to Florida state authorities the following week to resolve the matter. Then on September 1st, 2010, T.I. and his wife Tiny were arrested for drug charges. This arrest led to T.I. being sentenced on October 15th, 2010 to 11 months in prison for violating the terms of his probation, specifically for possessing testing positive for opiates, and associating with a convicted felon, namely his P$C cohort C-Rod. On October 25th, the drug charges against T.I. were dropped. However, on November 1st, T.I. reported back to the Forest City Federal Facility to serve his 11-month sentence. His release date was set for September 29, 2011. On August 31, 2011, T.I. was released from Forest City at 7:29 a.m. and sent to a community living facility to serve out the rest of his 11-month sentence. But just 48 hours later, he was sent back to federal custody due to a dispute involving T.I. taking a luxury bus from a prison in Arkansas to a halfway house facility in Atlanta. T.I.'s attorney, Stephen Sado, told the Associated Press that the Federal Bureau of Prisons moved T.I. to a different facility and clarified that the dispute was not drug-related. T.I. was later released from prison and sent back to the halfway house, where he was released on September 29th at midnight. On April 30th, 2014, T.I. and Compton rapper The Game were involved in a verbally confrontational standoff with officers of the Los Angeles Police Department. According to Billboard, it was believed to have been disconcerted as a response to officers misconducting a group of bystanders afar from a nightclub the two artists were attending. In a video leaked by TMZ, T.I. and Game were forced out of the club, which they nicknamed the Supercut Club or Supper Club, by LAPD officials due to an investigation of a drug and gambling ring. The club's security guards were present at the scene and refused the rappers' re-entries into the property to avoid more legal troubles. T.I. and Game were forced to stand back, with T.I. yelling, "Y'all got a lot of people beat up. We got good lawyers." One of the bystanders was forced to lay down with his hands over his head without warning, and security kicked him repeatedly to try to get him back up. Another guard yelled, "He goes to jail tonight." T.I. and Game were rumored to have been arrested for simple assault on a police officer and disturbing the peace, but they were later released with charges dropped. This was later denied by LAPD team members. In August 2015, the IRS filed liens totaling more than $4.5 million on T.I.'s property for unpaid taxes from 2012 and 2013. Then, on May 16, 2018, Harris was arrested outside of the gated community where he lives for misdemeanor charges of simple disorderly conduct and public drunkenness in Henry County, Georgia, after a guard allegedly refused to let Harris into the complex without a key. Harris posted bond and was released later that day. In September 2020, Harris was charged by the SEC for his involvement in 2 fraudulent initial coin offerings. Then in January 2021, Sabrina Peterson, who was associated with T.I. and his family, alleged on social media that T.I. put a gun to her head and threatened to K-word her in 2009. Following the post, allegations of SA by Harris and his wife Tiny appeared underneath the post. By March 2021, more than 30 women and at least one man accused Harris, his wife Tiny, and their associates of forced drugging, and intimidation in at least 2 states, including California and Georgia, which allegedly occurred since at least 2005. The accusers alleged that prior to or upon immediately entering TNT's home, hotel, or tour bus, they were coerced by Tiny to ingest drugs or were unknowingly administered drugs to impair the victim's ability to consent to subsequent vile acts. In January 2021, Harris released a video on Instagram denying the allegations, claiming that all of his encounters had been consensual. As a result of the allegations, production of T.I. and Tiny, Friends and Family Hustle was suspended. Then, in January 2024, Harris and his wife were again sued for SA, this time for an alleged incident that involved and SAing a woman in a Los Angeles hotel room in 2005. According to Variety, the suit describes the plaintiff as being in her early 20s when the happened and asserts she was serving in the U.S. Air Force at the time, after allegedly being introduced to the couple by an associate named Caviar, whom she had met at the house of the late rapper Coolio the night before the It seems like T.I. has a lot of work to do in mending his reputation beyond just the snitching accusations.